my name is Jonathan Oberka. This is for my Management 320 class, and I'm going to be talking about what management role I would take as a manager. First of all, my unique twist is that I'm going to base my manager role on what I would do in the shutter industry. I decided to choose this industry because I've been a part of it for over a decade, and so has my father. And I've had a lot of great mentors during my time in the shutter industry that showed me a lot of techniques and sales points that would help myself as a manager and to be able to lead a team. Additionally to that, I was also a front desk manager at the Sea Bay Hotel, which was a different type of customer interaction, but it also allowed me to expand the way I was able to communicate with housekeeping, with maintenance, and also with security and other members of the hotel industry. All these types of work environment and management positions have really let me excel in where I am today as a sales representative. But my goal overall is to become a manager of one of these companies and have my own group and team that I will be able to lead. First of all, I feel that your attitude, and meaning the attitude I bring into this, is the most important aspect to it. It starts with myself, so meaning that attitude that I'll bring, the energy and the happiness I'm going to try and create around my coworkers will be what I feel the most pivotal point. And this is because I've noticed that managers who are always very interactive, who are always happy, and who never seem to be bothered by anything are usually the best ones to lead their team. For instance, I had my first job ever. I had a manager at Hudson Trail, and it's a retail company. But this manager, the way he communicated with us, it was really bad. He would always try to intimidate us, and maybe he was trying to use this as a point of his management style. But I felt that really hurt him, because what it did to us is it made us feel really uneasy around him. We couldn't really rely on him, and we just didn't want to communicate with him. And as a manager, you have to be able to communicate with your team, and I feel that you have to make them realize that you're there to help them and not just criticize them. So by having the right attitude, not letting outside factors affect you, I feel is very important. And what I mean by outside factors is I had two managers who were at Saban & Sullivan, and they were going through some pretty hard times. One of them was going through a divorce, and the other one, her husband, was going through chemotherapy. But I never realized this until later on, until they told us and came out. But during the whole time we were together, which was roughly 3 months, they always were happy and very energetic. And they didn't tell us till the very end, when we were having a final party at the end of the summer before a bunch of us were going to go back to school. Now that was very important. But beyond that, I myself am able to do that very well. That's one of my very strong characteristics, and by seeing them do that made me realize that I wasn't the only one doing that. For instance, I broke up with my girlfriend one time, and the whole day I was sad while working at the Sea Bay Hotel, but not one point did I break down, or not one point did I just show emotion that happened. At all times it was about my customers and being able to lead, and I feel that's what you have to do as manager. You have to sacrifice your emotions, and you have to be emotionally stable. Next, as I said, communication is going to be very important, and as a manager, I need my employees to communicate with their clients at their very best. For instance, when you're making a sale, you have to listen to your customer. You have to make sure it's just you and them. Your body language is also very important. You have to, if your customer is here, you just talk to them, and you have to ignore everything else going on around you. You have to make sure it's just you and your customer, and you have to make it feel like it's just two of you in there and no one else is in the room. And another important aspect to this is you have to listen to them. This is very important because I always see in other people who are working around us, I always see the salesperson interrupting the customer. They don't listen to them. For instance, a customer could be telling you something, and they'll be saying, this is what I want, that's what I want. And if you interrupt them, it's like, oh, this is what you want, and that's what you want. That could be bad, because one, you're interrupting them. to you might be able to understand what they were trying to tell you, what they want at their house, but most often than not, that's not what they were trying to tell you, and you're just interrupting them, and it kills that vibe that you have. The most important thing to do, and that I want to emphasize as a manager, is that to listen to your customers. Let them finish. There's always going to be a mute point in their conversation, or they're always going to be like, can you provide that for us? Which just leads you to respond. Now, as a response, it's also good to rephrase what they just said, or to expand on what they just said. That way, they know that you're listening to them, and you're able to communicate a lot better with your customers. Next, appearance. In this industry, appearance is very important, and I want to make sure as a manager that I'm the example of that, and I want my group of sales representatives to understand that. As a manager, I feel that your appearance is important, especially in the shutter industry, because it reflects on your company. And the reason I say this is because I see some other people who set up their expos, and their clothes is wrinkly, and they just don't seem very well put together. But the mentors I've had, they've always stressed appearance, and I feel that does lead you a long way. And it's just not about the way you dress; it's also about grooming. It's grooming how happy you are. I feel like all those things just come together, and you're able to just bring out a better persona in you. And when customers see that you're well dressed, you probably smell good that day, they're more likely to come to you. So I want to also stress that upon my employees. Next, this is an example of an expo, and the expos are the place where we get the majority of our clientele. But as I will go further, during these expos, in the picture I just showed you, I want my team to get ready and prepare themselves at their best. Because during those expos, that's the time where we get the majority of our customers. We have customers who come they come to these expos, they pay a lot of money to get into the expos, and we know they want to buy. So therefore, I want to make sure that my team is well prepared. And I want a team filled with diversity. And what I mean by diversity, I just don't mean race at all. I also mean age and gender. This way, with a diverse group that I'm leading, I'll be able to attract different type of customers. For some reason, customers can relate to when they're a lot older to younger, or just sometimes vice versa. Sometimes a lot of older customers want a young customer, and sometimes a lot of young customers want a much older sales representative, so they have a way to connect. Now, this is very important to me because I've realized that when you have a diverse group that you can lead, is when you get your best sales. So that's very important to me. Next, independence. I want my sales representatives to know that they can have their independence. And what I mean by that is I want them to be able to use their selling techniques. For instance, my very first job in the shutter industry outside my father's company, I had an employee who wanted us to make sales a certain way. Now, what this really did, I felt it hindered the way we could sell to our customers, because it kind of just it made us all alike, and there wasn't that diversity I was talking about. Even though we were a diverse group, it didn't feel like that, because you're all doing the same thing. But what I want my employees to feel is that they can have their own independence. Because if you're going to come into this industry, there's a reason you're going to do it, and you're going to bring your own enthusiasm into it. So I would definitely let them allow that. Next, this industry, and especially what I want to manage, my leaders, falls very greatly into the expectancy theory. And what I mean by this is that the days before expos, or the days before I would go into a client's house to measure and make sales inside their house, is in order for my expectancy theory, which is effort, performance, and outcome. For my effort, I would dress very well that day, shower, and get a good meal in me. That effort I put into that small setting, I felt made me perform a lot better, because I felt good, I was well fed, and that made me happy. As an outcome, I felt that my outcome was I would close on the sale, and that was very important to me. But for instance, I had a coworker, and her definition of the expectancy theory was that she wanted her effort into it was her running 3 to 6 miles the morning of an expo or the day she had a meeting with a client. She told me that she would go running, and that would give her this sense of energy, and it would just boost her confidence up. Her performance was her being able to just have that that energy, and that energy she was able to bring to the client's house. And her outcome was either to get a lot of customers at the day expo, which she was able to close on the sale when she met up with a client. So there's a lot of different ways the expectancy theory can be interpreted, and that was just one of mine. But as a result, I want my employees to also have a reward. And this is where I would either increase their pay based on the number of sales they made, or I would just reward them with something nice, such as a gift card, and I feel that that would make them work even more. And I've had experience with this where when I was working at St. Sullivan, our manager, she would increase her pay, or she would just give us a reward, as I said, like a gift card. And for some reason, that motivated us a lot more, and especially when she would increase the percentage of our pay based on how much we were able to sell. We were a very competitive bunch, and that just added to the competition, which was very important to us, but it was also important to her. And I want to bring that sense of energy. Next, marketing. As a manager right now, even though our biggest selling points are the expos I'm referring to, there are still other marketing points that will allow us to drag in more customers. One of them is we like to pride ourselves on that these shutters are handmade and they're made in the United States. It brings out a sense of pride, and it allows us to show the customers that it's not just, we're not outsourcing, we're also working with local people, and they're able to support this. This is very important, as I found out a lot of customers like this aspect of our company. And as manager, I would make sure that our employees also are very vocal about this, along with the fact that we do provide a lot of friendly and environmental safe products. For instance, even though I know it takes wood to make shutters, we do provide shutters such as a hybrid shutter, which is made from scrap wood, but it's concealed with new types of technology that are environmental friendly. So customers do appreciate this type of instance that we're able to provide to them, and I would want my employees to make sure that they are stressing this. But beyond that, beyond the face-to-face interaction, even though this industry is very heavily based on that, I feel there are other ways I would expand this, such as YouTube. I feel that YouTube is an outlet that we can easily utilize by setting up videos of recent installations we made, new expos we're going to be at, maybe even a get to know the sales representatives before you come out to the expos, and just stuff like that I feel will allow us to connect to our customer base a lot better. Next, I feel that Facebook would also be a good factor. Even though we do have a Facebook up now, I feel that there are new, better ways we can interact with them, such as maybe even bring up a sales promotion that if you refer to one of your friends for future encounters, maybe get 10% off, or have us come back out and you'll get 20% off if you want to make any addition to your house, as long as you set up a Facebook link on your front page. Just something easy like that. Now, one of the most important aspects we pride ourselves on is customer service, because it's not just about the sale. I want to make sure that my employees understand that when you go into a customer's house after you've already made your first pitch at the expo, when you go to the customer's house and you do close on a sale, you just don't make it about the sale. You try to come up with a very friendly environment, and this can be done by a common interest. For instance, if I was at a customer's house right now and I would sit down and I'd see the Redskins logo, I'd be like, oh nice, I'm a Redskins fan too. And there's something in common we'd have to talk about, our love for the Redskins. Or if that was a Redskins, excuse me, if that was a Ravens helmet, I'd be like, hey, lucky you, you're going to the Super Bowl. And it's just that interest of football there in itself in the NFL that we're able to discuss and communicate. But it just doesn't have to be sports. I go into a lot of customers' houses and I see movie posters. And whether it's a husband or wife who loves that movie, I'll talk about the movie. And since I love movies, I'm able to relate to it. I'm able to talk about it, especially if I love it. You know, that's another common interest we have. I would stress this fact onto my employees for them to find a common interest amongst our clients, for them to just not talk about shutters and the sale, how much you're going to buy, you know. It's going to be beyond that. Next, I would also talk about the cultural difference. The cultural difference is very important to me because when I first started out, I've realized the way you interact with some customers are very different. And the huge difference is because of their background culture. And being in the metropolitan DC area, being very close to DC and all the different embassies, you have a lot of customers of first generations who aren't accustomed to the American norms, but bring their own culture. For instance, a lot of my Asian clientele, they like to conduct business very slowly, very peacefully, and they'll always offer you tea, water, or just some small offering. And it's very good to, you know, accept this, of course, if you feel comfortable, because you want to make sure that, you know, you're showing them that you're trying to conduct business their way. Because, you know, you are in their house and you just don't want to seem like you're trying to disrespect them. Another point is that with a lot of my African customers, I've realized they were very energetic as myself and very happy, always smiled. But they added one more thing that was very interesting of them, is they would always offer me food. Now, as I've never encountered this when I've been with American clientele as myself, nor would I ever offer food to anyone who's ever come into my house, especially someone as a sales representative or someone who I really didn't know. But for them, it was just a custom to offer me food. And at the beginning, I never took it, but after time, I felt more and more comfortable because I realized that it was just customary of them to do such a thing. So I would want to explain to my employees that people interact differently based on culture, so to not feel worried. Finally, as a manager, communication in your company is very important. We're only one aspect of the company. We're the sales representatives. But there's the manufacturers, as you can see here, then there's installers, then there's the corporate heads, and then there's us, the sales rep. So there's a lot of upward and downward communication. And what I mean by this is that if I go into a customer's house and I sell them a shutter and they want it to fit a certain way or they want it to hang a certain way, I have to let the manufacturers know. And then I might have to even let the installers know. That way I'm able to make sure that the customer is satisfied with what they originally wanted. And this is very important because if it wasn't that communication aspect, then we, more than so than often, we wouldn't get it right and we would dissatisfy the customer. So communication downward and upward is very important because it happens the other way around too. Sometimes the manufacturers will call us and they'll tell us that what the customer wanted based on angles and based on woods can't be satisfied, which we unfortunately have to tell the customers, but it's better to tell them then than just surprise them with something they didn't order. From the corporate view, sometimes they'll bring us information that they'll want us to introduce a new line of wood or a new line of products that they feel will be able to sell. Or we give them feedback where we tell them that this certain type of wood or this certain type of shutter isn't selling. So it's very important for us to communicate. And this is all the steps I would take as a manager and as a team leader of the shutter industry as my position as a manager. Thank you.